On a small island called Outset, surrounded by nothing but ocean in every direction, a boy named Link wakes up on his birthday. His grandmother is waiting for him with a gift, the same green tunic and cap worn, according to legend, by a hero who once saved the kingdom of Hyrule from total darkness. It's a tradition on this island. Every boy who reaches this age puts on the green clothes, not because anyone expects him to actually be a hero, but because the elders want the children to at least carry a piece of that courage with them. Link has no idea that today, that tradition is about to stop being just a costume. His little sister, Aryll, gives him her telescope as a present, and through it, Link spots something strange in the sky. A massive bird carrying a girl in its talons, flying toward the forest at the top of the island. Without thinking twice, Link grabs a sword and climbs up to investigate. He finds the girl, rescues her, and learns her name is Tetra, the captain of a pirate crew. But while he's helping her, the same giant bird comes back, and this time it doesn't take a stranger. It takes Aryll. And that's the whole premise, established in about 2 minutes. No lengthy prophecy, no council of elders explaining the fate of the world. Just a birthday, a telescope, and a sister who's gone. Everything Link does for the rest of this story is, at its core, an older brother trying to get his sister back. Tetra, feeling at least partly responsible since the bird went after Aryll while chasing her, agrees to take Link along on her ship. They sail toward the Forsaken Fortress, a dark, rusted stronghold surrounded by cliffs, searchlights, and armed guards patrolling every walkway. Tetra's crew won't go any further than the shore. This is Link's fight, and he goes in completely alone, with nothing but a sword he barely knows how to use. He crouches behind crates, times his movement between sweeps of the searchlights, climbs scaffolding in the dark, and eventually finds the cell where Aryll and several other kidnapped girls are being held. He's this close to getting her out. And then the giant bird, which we now learn is called the Helmarok King, snatches him mid-escape and drags him straight to the top of the tower, presenting him like a prize to a tall, imposing man standing in the shadows. That man doesn't even bother asking who Link is. He takes one look at him and orders the bird to just throw him into the sea. Not even worth killing directly. Just get rid of him. Link is thrown from the tower and sinks into the ocean. And if this were a different kind of story, that would be the end of it. But a talking boat finds him floating and pulls him to the surface. Its name is the King of Red Lions, and it explains something Link never knew. That man at the fortress is Ganondorf, the same evil from the old legend, the one who was supposedly sealed away forever by a hero of the past. Somehow, he's back, and the hero who's supposed to stop him again never showed up. So it falls, almost by accident, on a 12-year-old boy in a green tunic who was just trying to save his sister. I want to pause here for a second because I think this opening does something worth talking about. Link never chose to be a hero. He didn't train for it, he didn't ask for a prophecy, he didn't even know the legend existed until a talking boat explained it to him mid-ocean. He just wanted his sister back, and the world around him decided to hand him a much bigger responsibility while he was busy with a much smaller, much more personal one. And honestly, that's closer to how responsibility tends to work in real life than most hero stories admit. We rarely get a clear invitation into the big defining chapters of our lives. Usually, we're just trying to handle the thing directly in front of us. A sick relative, a job we need to keep, a promise we made to someone we love. And only later do we realize that handling it required us to grow into someone we didn't know we were capable of being. Nobody hands you a certificate that says you are now ready for this. You just keep walking toward the person you care about, and the growth happens as a side effect. So Link agrees to help the King of Red Lions in exchange for help finding Aryll, and the search sends him across the Great Sea, an ocean scattered with dozens of islands, all that's left of a world we don't fully understand yet. The first stop is Dragon Roost Island, home to a bird-like people called the Rito. Their guardian deity, a massive dragon named Valu, has been furious lately, breathing fire on anyone who gets close to his mountain, and the Rito have no idea why. On top of that, the Rito's young prince, Komali, is grieving what he assumes is the loss of Valu's favor, convinced his people are somehow to blame. Link climbs the mountain and finds the real answer. A giant spider-like creature has taken residence near Valu, tormenting him from the inside. Link fights it off. Valu calms down almost instantly, and in gratitude, Ian gives Link one of three sacred pearls he needs to continue his journey, Din's Pearl. From there, Link travels to the Forest Haven, home of the great Deku Tree and small forest spirits called Koroks. He arrives just as they're preparing their most important yearly ceremony, only to find out one of them, a shy little Korok named Makar, never made it. He got lost inside the nearby Forbidden Woods, home to something dangerous. Link goes in after him, works his way through the corrupted forest, and rescues Makar from a monstrous plant creature guarding the deepest chamber. As thanks, the great Deku Tree gives Link the second pearl, Farore's Pearl. The third pearl is where things get heavier. Link has to find a sea deity named Jabun, who's been hiding after Ganondorf destroyed the island where he used to live, just to get to that pearl first. Along the way, Link discovers that the eternal storm and endless night covering parts of the Great Sea aren't natural. They're Ganondorf's doing, a curse meant to make the ocean harder to navigate and easier for him to control. Link eventually tracks Jabun down to a hidden grotto, and, with the King of Red Lions vouching for him, receives Nairu's pearl, completing the set. Somewhere in the middle of all this searching, Link makes a quick stop back home on Outset Island. And this part isn't strictly necessary for the plot, but I think it matters. His grandmother has fallen into a deep depression since Aryll was taken and Link left. She barely eats, barely leaves the house. Link finds a way to reopen a fairy fountain near the island and brings back something that helps her recover. And in return, she cooks him a meal to take on his travels. It's a small detour in a story about pearls and ancient towers and gods, but it's the writers reminding us that Link isn't just fighting a legendary evil, he's still a kid who has an actual family that's suffering because of everything happening around them. With the three pearls in hand, Link places them on three stone markers scattered across the sea, and the water around a specific point begins to drain, revealing something that's been sitting fully submerged this entire time: the Tower of the Gods, a massive stone structure meant to test the worthiness of anyone who wants to reach what lies beneath the ocean. Link climbs through it, passes a trial designed to judge his courage, and rings a bell at the top that opens a path straight down into the sea floor. And what he finds down there is Hyrule, the actual kingdom from the old legend, sitting underwater, frozen. Literally frozen, everything drained of color, everything standing perfectly still, like the entire kingdom got paused the moment it sank centuries ago. Link finds the pedestal with the Master Sword, the same blade the original hero used to seal Ganondorf away the first time, and the second Link pulls it free. Color rushes back into the castle, and time starts moving again for the first time in hundreds of years. Before I get to what happens next, I want to point something out about this moment, because I don't think it's an accident. Link spends this entire trip literally walking through a frozen, colorless version of the exact legend he was raised on. The elders on Outset Island dressed him in green so he'd carry a piece of the old hero's courage without ever expecting him to actually need it. And now here he is, standing inside the real thing, pulling the real sword out of the real pedestal. I think there's something a lot of people can relate to in that image of walking into a story you were only ever told secondhand, a family business you were always expected to take over, a reputation attached to your last name before you did anything to earn it, a legend that existed long before you did and was just waiting for someone to grow into it. The pressure in those situations rarely comes from an actual person standing over you giving orders. It comes from the story itself, from a version of who you're supposed to be that was written before you had any say in it. Link doesn't get a choice about whether to accept that role. The sword is just there, waiting, and pulling it out is basically the only path forward. What matters more, I think, is what he does once it's in his hand, because that part at least is his. Now, here's where I have to slow down, because this is the part of the story that I think gives everything else its weight. Link goes to confront Ganondorf, sword in hand, ready for this to be the final fight. But Ganondorf reveals that pulling the Master Sword actually released a seal on his own power. So instead of Link having the advantage, he's suddenly outmatched. Ganondorf is about to finish him off when Tetra shows up with backup and gets captured trying to help. And in that moment, Ganondorf notices something around her neck. A piece of jewelry Tetra's worn her entire life without knowing what it actually was. It's the Triforce of Wisdom. Tetra, the foul-mouthed, sword-swinging pirate captain who spent the whole game rescuing Link as much as being rescued by him, is Princess Zelda. I love this reveal, and not just because it's a fun twist. I love it because of what it implies about identity. Tetra isn't secretly weak underneath a tough exterior, waiting for someone to unlock the real princess hiding inside her. She's still exactly who she's always been, capable, sharp, in charge of her own crew when she gets confirmation of her royal bloodline. The story doesn't soften her once we learn who she really is. If anything, it just adds another layer to someone who was already fully formed. Who we are isn't usually a costume hiding some purer, truer self underneath that just needs to be revealed. Most of the time, we already are who we are, and new information about our past or our origin just adds context. It doesn't erase everything we built before we knew it. Tetra and Link escape with help from allies who've joined along the way, and Zelda, now revealed, is taken somewhere safe inside Hyrule. But there's a problem. During that fight, Link and the King of Red Lions realize the Master Sword isn't working the way it should. It's lost its power to actually hurt evil, because Ganondorf killed the sages who used to keep it charged, guardians tied to the earth and wind temples. So instead of heading straight into the final battle, Link has to go find the descendants of those dead sages, a shy Rito girl named Medli, and in a nice bit of symmetry, that same little Korok, Makar, that he saved earlier in the Forbidden Woods. Together, they help Link clear both temples and restore the sword's true power. After that, the King of Red Lions tells Link about one more requirement. A second Triforce, the Triforce of Courage, shattered into 8 pieces, scattered across the sea generations ago when the original hero of time left Hyrule for good. Link spends a stretch of the story hunting these down, one triangle at a time, before the gods finally reopen the path back to Hyrule and give him a new title, the Hero of Winds. When Link returns, he learns Ganondorf has taken Zelda to his own tower near the castle, so this time there's no detour. Link fights through the 4 dungeon bosses one more time as guardians, defeats a phantom illusion of Ganondorf hiding inside a maze of doors, earns the light arrows as a reward, and finally faces a grotesque, puppet-like transformation of Ganondorf himself at the top of the tower. He beats it. And then Ganondorf drops the act completely and challenges him to one final direct fight. No illusions, no puppets. At the top of that tower, Ganondorf overpowers Link and knocks him unconscious. Not with some elaborate trap, just brute force. And while Link is down, he pulls the Triforce of Courage straight out of him, completing the full Triforce for the first time in hundreds of years. He's holding all 3 pieces, standing over the barely conscious boy who was supposed to stop him. All he has to do now is make a wish, and whatever he wishes for becomes reality, permanently. And then something happens that I think is the actual emotional center of this whole story. Before Ganondorf can speak his wish, the King of Red Lions reveals himself. He's not just a talking boat, he's the spirit of Daphnis Nohansen Hyrule, the last king of the Drowned Kingdom, who's been guiding Link the entire time in disguise. He touches the Triforce first, and instead of wishing to bring Hyrule back, to raise it from the ocean and restore his old kingdom to its former glory, he wishes for the opposite. He asks the gods to let what remains of Hyrule sink completely, forever, and in exchange, he asks them to give Link and Zelda a future somewhere new, above the waves, away from the ruins of everything his people built and lost. Sit with that for a second, because I think it's one of the most quietly radical decisions in the entire series. This is a king. His entire identity, his whole reason for existing across centuries as a ghost trapped in a talking boat, was tied to that kingdom. He had, sitting right in front of him, the actual power to undo the tragedy, to bring back the land, the people, the legacy, everything that defined him. And he looked at 2 kids who barely knew what they were fighting for and decided their future mattered more than restoring his past. Ganondorf, furious at losing the Triforce he was one sentence away from claiming, challenges Link and Zelda to fight him right there, under a barrier that's already starting to collapse now that the wish has been made. Link and Zelda take him down together, Zelda firing light arrows to stun him, Link landing the final blow with the Master Sword straight through Ganondorf's head. He turns to stone on the spot, The barrier keeping the ocean out finally gives way completely, and Hyrule, the kingdom, the legend, all of it disappears underwater for good. The king, his purpose finally fulfilled, disappears along with it. Link and Zelda float up to the surface, where Tetra's old crew is waiting to pull them out of the water. And that's basically it. No triumphant return to a restored kingdom, no throne, no crown. The story ends with Link and Zelda setting sail on the same boat the king used to occupy, now empty, searching for a new island to call home, with no idea yet what that home will even look like. I think what stays with me most about this ending is how much it's about letting go of something instead of getting it back. Most stories built around a lost kingdom or a broken legacy end with that kingdom being restored, rebuilt, redeemed. This one ends with a king actively choosing to bury his own legacy at the bottom of the ocean because he understood that clinging to what was already gone would only get in the way of what could still exist. And I think there's something worth taking from that. We tend to treat the past, whether it's a version of ourselves, a relationship, a career path we spent years building, as something that has to either be restored exactly as it was or mourned as a total loss. But sometimes the most honest thing to do with a chapter that's already over is to actually let it be over, not out of bitterness, but so there's room left for whatever comes next. Daphnis didn't get his kingdom back. He didn't even get to see what Link and Zelda's world would eventually look like. He just made sure they'd have the chance to build it themselves, without the weight of an old crown sitting on top of them. What do you think about that decision? Would you have made the same choice? Or would the temptation to restore everything have been too strong? Let me know in the comments and thank you for watching.